So today we wanted to cover a topic that I believe we've covered before, but something that's very important to know and can get a little bit confusing, and it's the sale processes, because there's kind of three main ones, and two of them are quite similar, but with some key differences. So the first one being auction, which we don't typically do at Low & Co, but some agencies in Wellington do. It's very popular in places like Auckland and I think Australia as well. But the two that we specialise in at Low & Co is a deadline sale and a closed tender. So both of those methods include a deadline as a date, which auction often can as well. But the main difference being the way we do it at Low & Co, and I know every company kind of has different terminology, but a deadline sale can be sold prior, meaning an offer can be received before the deadline date, and if it's satisfactory to the vendor, it can bring that date forward. But with a closed tender, there will be no offers until the date.
So closed tender is the only kind of tender that we do, but I know that some other agencies do call tenders sometime in a process where vendors will look at earlier offers. So just always look out for that wording when you're reading the description on a property that you're interested in, whether it will be not selling prior, which is closed, or vendor reserves the right to sell prior, which is, for us, a deadline sale. And there are several reasons as to why owners might choose to go with one of those two options. We do both of them.
Yeah.
And it just needs to be relevant to both the property and the client's situation.
Yeah, I think, if you offered on a place and it was conditional on selling your house, then a deadline sale makes a lot more sense because you just want to be able to see an offer as soon as you can if there's some time pressure there. But there are some real benefits to closed tender. One for the buyers being that they know they're not going to get hurried along. We're not going to call them, a week into the process and say, hey, you've got 24 hours to get an offer in if you want it. So they can feel secure that it's going through to that date no matter what. Whereas with a deadline sale, there can be a few situations where you feel a bit rushed.
And there are certain times of the year where you might notice one more than the other as well. A deadline sale can be helpful for sellers when we're coming on at a time where there's going to be a lot of competing properties for buyers to look at, because what you don't want is for one of those competing properties to have a deadline closing before us and we're not able to look at earlier offers. So it does sort of wax and wane over different times of the year, and also, as James was saying, depending on what the seller's circumstances are, do they have an offer on another property, is speed of the essence in terms of the process. But the key difference between them is closed tender will be going through to that deadline come what may, nothing will be happening earlier, and a deadline sale, the vendor does reserve the right to sell prior if an earlier offer was to come in that is strong enough to bring the deadline forward.
And in terms of what the best process is, there really is no best process. They all have strengths and weaknesses, and it's just about asking the agent, hey, what do you recommend would work best for me? And just working from there.